I wasn't only afraid it would fail, I was also afraid of what would happen if it didn't. Success demands responsibility, vision, growth, but it also unlocks impact, meaning, and change. And while fear can freeze you, imagination can fuel you. That's the kind of mindset that leads to personal growth and true transformation. The world doesn't teach us to dream boldly. It teaches us to be cautious. But I discovered that self-belief is like a muscle. The more you imagine victory, the stronger it becomes. You don't have to eliminate fear. You just have to shift your focus from what could go wrong to what could go right. That's where positive thinking and visualization change the game. Instead of rehearsing disaster, I started rehearsing success. People often say, "Jack, weren't you terrified of failing?" Of course, but I was more afraid of not trying, and even more afraid of living a life wondering what could have been. Every great achievement began with someone who believed, just a little, despite the doubt. Don't let emotional intelligence mean suppressing your dreams. Let it mean managing fear while still moving forward. That's real resilience. Let me tell you something I've always believed. You can train your mind to expect success. I used to wake up and visualize how I'd feel when a customer loved our product, when a partner signed a deal, when an investor said yes. That kind of self-awareness builds direction and attracts momentum. You start walking like it's already happening. And guess what? The world begins to respond accordingly. So the next time your brain says, "But what if I fail?" counter it with this: "What if I win?" Let that question linger. Let it guide your steps. Because there's something even scarier than failing. It's succeeding and realizing you never gave yourself the chance to try. And when you open that door, you'll be amazed at what's waiting on the other side. Many people think investors fund your dream, but the truth? It's the customers who do that. From day one at Alibaba, I understood one thing. If we solved real problems, the money would come. And it did. Because customers don't just pay your bills, they shape your future. If you focus on delivering value, they'll come back. And they won't come back alone. They'll bring others with them. That's how trust is built. That's how real growth mindset begins. Business isn't about being flashy or complex. It's about understanding people deeply. Every complaint is a gift. Every question is a clue. I used to spend hours reading emails from customers, not just the happy ones, but especially the angry ones. Because in their frustration, I found direction. That's how we cultivated emotional intelligence inside our company culture. By listening, serving, and improving every single day. In one of my talks, I shared a metaphor that shaped my thinking. If you want to catch the rabbit, don't change the rabbit, change yourself. Customers won't change to fit your model. You have to adapt to serve them better. That's self-awareness in action. It's continuous learning. And when you align your team around that principle, the product becomes an extension of the customer's voice. It surprises me how many companies forget this simple truth. Without customers, there is no business. Investors come and go. Trends rise and fade, but a loyal customer base, that's your most valuable asset. That's why I always say, never fall in love with your product. Fall in love with the problem it solves. That's where self-improvement and real innovation start. So if you're building something today, ask yourself, am I obsessed with features or am I obsessed with the people using them? Because when you put people first, really first, everything else follows. Revenue, loyalty, impact. That's when a business becomes a movement. And that's when you stop chasing customers and start earning them. The day we founded Alibaba, I wasn't alone. I had a group of friends and former students who believed, not just in the idea, but in each other. None of us were experts, but we were united by a dream, and even more by a sense of purpose. What many people overlook is that your team is not just your workforce, they're your co-pilots. And when the journey gets rough, it's not your business plan that saves you, it's your people. You can pay someone to work, but you can't buy heart. And heart is what carries companies through storms. I've always believed that self-discipline and productivity don't come from fear, they come from inspiration. That's why great leaders don't push people, they lift them. Leadership is about empowerment, not control. It's about helping people become more than they thought possible. There's a line I shared once that I still believe deeply. If you want to catch the rabbit, don't change the rabbit, change yourself. If your team isn't aligned, look inward first. Are you inspiring or just instructing? Are you building a culture of purpose or a system of pressure? Personal growth inside a team begins with leadership that listens before it speaks. In the early days, we celebrated every little win, not because we were naive, but because we understood the power of motivation. Purpose doesn't come from salary alone. It comes from meaning. When your people know why they're working, they give you their best. That's emotional intelligence at the organizational level. And it's something every founder must cultivate with intention. Ask yourself, are you building a company people want to work for, or a place they feel they must escape from? Because teams that feel seen and valued stay longer, fight harder, and dream bigger. And when those people grow, your business grows too. A respected team builds a legacy, not just a business. In the beginning, we didn't have investors knocking on our door. We had dreams, sleepless nights, and relentless action. Everyone talks about raising capital, impressing venture firms, making the perfect pitch deck. But I always say, investors are not the oxygen of your company, they're the applause. They come after the performance begins. Focus first on your mission, your customers, your people. Let the results speak. I've seen many startups die young, not from lack of capital, but from lack of clarity. When you build a company just to satisfy numbers, you forget the most important one. The number of people you're truly impacting. The best way to attract investors is by not needing them. That's the paradox. When your product solves real problems and your team works with heart, money finds you. At Alibaba, we didn't chase funding, we chased meaning. And when the impact became visible, the funding followed. Because the real value of a business isn't in valuation reports. It's in the trust you build, the resilience you demonstrate, and the self-awareness you cultivate as a leader. These are the traits investors are actually betting on, even if they don't say it directly. It's tempting to think success is about who backs you. But real power comes from who walks beside you, your customers and your team. Personal development as a founder means choosing long-term value over short-term approval. It means building something so real that no investor can ignore it. And that begins from the inside out. Next time you're tempted to redesign your entire business for a potential investor, pause. Ask yourself, am I shaping this for the people who pay me or the ones who believe in me? Remember, the last piece of the puzzle never defines the picture. It completes it. Rejection was part of my story before success ever knocked. I was turned down for jobs, schools, even by KFC. But each no became fuel. Every fall sharpened my thinking. People often fear failure as if it's the end. But I've learned it's the beginning of something deeper. Self-discovery. The path to growth, resilience, and mastery is paved with mistakes. Embrace them. Most people don't understand this, but failure teaches more than success ever will. It reveals your blind spots. It humbles your ego. It builds mental resilience that no book can teach. I faced moments where everything seemed lost, but those were the exact moments that gave me clarity. You see who you really are when things fall apart. That's when the learning begins. There's one thing I tell young entrepreneurs. If you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. It's through setbacks that self-discipline and personal growth are forged. Winning feels good, but it rarely changes you. Losing? That leaves a mark. And sometimes, that mark becomes your identity. Not in a negative way, but as a reminder of your journey and grit. I used to tell my team, don't run from failure, run toward it. And I meant it. Because what scares you usually holds your next breakthrough. Every great story includes conflict. The question isn't whether you'll fail, it's whether you'll grow from it. It's in that pain that life transformation starts. That's where motivation is born. Not from easy victories, but from hard lessons. When you hit a wall, don't blame the wall. Ask yourself, what is this here to teach me? Continuous learning means seeing every setback as a stepping stone. And the faster you fail, the faster you learn. That's how you build a foundation that lasts. Because the ones who rise from failure, they're the ones who change the world. When we were children, we had no fear of falling. We ran, jumped, failed, and laughed. But as we grew up, something changed. We started fearing what others would think. We began avoiding mistakes. Somewhere along the way, we traded curiosity for caution. But I've learned that self-awareness and personal growth often begin by reconnecting with the child we once were, the one who believed it was okay to fall as long as you stood up again. Adults worry about reputation, image, and approval. Children care about discovery, excitement, and possibility. At Alibaba, I tried to preserve that childlike mindset, boldness without the baggage. It helped me to stay creative, to approach problems playfully. That's how we built a culture of innovation and resilience. Because when you stop fearing the fall, you start moving faster toward what matters. When I failed my university entrance exam, twice, I didn't give up. I remembered how as a kid, I'd fall from my bike and get right back up. That's the spirit I carried into my work life. It's not about being reckless. It's about not being frozen by fear. You don't need to erase your past mistakes. You just need to remember the part of you that never cared about